All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We're going to go over the 2018 STAR test, starting with number 1. A fishbowl shaped like a sphere is filled with water. The fishbowl has a diameter of 16 inches. Which measurement is closest to the volume of water in the fishbowl? So it's asking for the volume of a sphere. So we write the formula for the volume of a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. The information given to us is that the diameter equals 16 inches, which means the radius is half of that, so that is 8. So you simply plug in 8 for the letter R, solve the rest of the formula with it, and you would get 2,144.66. Number 2. Students in a science class investigated how the speed of sound changes with the air temperature outside. The data are shown in the scatter plot. Based on the scatter plot, what is the best prediction of the speed of sound when the air temperature is 50 degrees Celsius? So first we're going to start by drawing our trend line. And remember, during the STAR test, make sure you ask for a note card so that you make sure your trend line is straight. And then it says, based on if it was 50 degrees Celsius. So on the graph, we go to 50 degrees Celsius. So this is counting by 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So we would go to the last line, go up to the trend line, that would be our dot, go over to the y-axis, and that would be above 355, and so that would be right around 360. So the correct answer would be H. 4 plumbers estimated the length of the radius of a cylindrical pipe. The estimates made by the plumbers are listed below. And these are the estimates. Which list shows these lengths in order from greatest to least? So first you have to change them all to decimals and line them up by the decimal point. Like that. And once you do that, you compare it based on the place value. So you're going from greatest to least. And when you put them in order from greatest to least, you should end up with letter B. Number 4. Jerry has a new job and earns a salary of $45,000. So $45,000 goes with Jerry. Victoria has a new job and earns a salary of $54,000. So Victoria goes with $54,000. So you can kind of get your information organized. You've got Jerry and you've got Victoria. Jerry is starting with a salary of $45,000 and Victoria is starting with $54,000. Jerry receives a salary increase of $2,500 per year. So that's happening more than once. So Jerry gets $2,500 per month. Or per year. And Victoria will receive a salary increase of $1,500 per year. So Victoria gets $1,500 per year. So once your information is organized, you're just looking for the choice that matches what you did. Number 5. Natasha walked from the library to the grocery store and then to her house. The diagram shows the top view of the locations of these 3 places and their distances from each other. Which measurement is closest to the shortest distance in miles from Natasha's house to the library? So this is a Pythagorean theorem question. This would be A, B, and you're looking for C. So you'd write the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A is 0.9, B is 1.7, and again you're looking for C squared. Once you square 0.9, you get 3.7, or 0.9 squared plus 1.7 squared is 3.7. And then you find the square root of 3.7, which equals 1.92. So the closest to that is letter B. Number 6. A relation contains the points 1, 2, 2, -1, 3, 0, 4, 1, and 5, -1. Which statement accurately describes this relation? So this is asking if this is a function or not. And we know that because the choices are all talking about functions. So since none of the x's repeat, this is a function. So we can eliminate the ones that say that it's not. G says the relation represents y as a function of x because one value of y is associated with two values of x. That's not correct. The relation represents y as a function of x because each value of x is associated with a single value of y. That is correct. Every x can only have one y. Number 7. In a museum, there is a sculpture in the shape of a cylinder. So we have a cylinder. So I would recommend that you draw your shape. And it has a diameter of 12 feet. So the diameter is 12. So if the diameter is 12, that means the radius is half of that, so 6. And the height of h feet. We don't know the height, and we don't need to know the height because the question is, which equation can be used to find V, the volume of the cylinder in cubic feet? So to find the volume of a cylinder, you write the formula, V equals BH, but capital B means area of the base. So in this case, the base is a circle, so you would do pi r squared times the height. And that would give you letter A, pi r squared times the height. Number 8. Julie started with 20 pieces of gum and gave away X pieces. So we're going to organize our information. Julie started with 20 pieces of gum and gave away X. Conrad started with 35 pieces of gum and gave away twice as much as Julie did. So he gave away 2x. There's your equation, and then you're just going to solve your equation. So you could start by doing plus 2x plus 2x. This cancels out. 20. Negative 1 plus 2 equals 1. Then I would move my constant, so I'd subtract 20, that cancels out, and x equals 15. So the correct answer was H. Number 9. A container is shaped like a triangular prism. So this is the shape we're dealing with. Each base of the container is an equilateral triangle with the dimensions shown. The container has a height of 15 centimeters, so that's important. What is the lateral surface area of the container? So it's asking for the lateral surface area of a triangular prism. So I would write my formula, S equals PH. Capital P means perimeter of the base. So I'd have to add the 3 sides of the triangle to find the perimeter of the base times the height, which they told me was 15, and that would give me a total of 270. So when you bubble that, the decimal point goes right after it. You don't have to fill in the zeros, but you can. You don't have to fill in the plus sign, but you can. Number 10. Trapezoid PQRS is rotated 180 degrees about the origin to form trapezoid P', Q', R', S'. Which statement is true? So we could use patty paper, but based on the choices, it doesn't look like we really need to. Letter F says the sum of the angle measures of trapezoid PQRS is 180 degrees less than. Well, the angles did not change because this preserved congruence. Nothing about the shape changed. G says it is not congruent. We know that's not true because it is congruent. H says the area is less. That's not true. It didn't change. J says the angle measures are equal. So that's what you're looking for because on a rotation, nothing is going to change. The only time it changes is with a dilation. Number 11. Which function is best represented by this graph? So it's asking for the equation of the line, the y equals mx plus b. So starting with b, that's your y-intercept. So it's crossing through the y at -2, which means you can eliminate a and d. And then you're going to make your right triangle and count up and over. So it goes up 2 and over 8. So your change in y over your change in x is 2 over 8 or 1 over 4. So the slope is 1 over 4. The y-intercept is -2. That's why B is the correct answer. You could also pick 2 points on the line and put that in your stat edit menu. Number 12. An employee put $5,000 in a retirement account that offers 9% interest compounded, so that's compound interest, annually. The employee makes no additional deposits or withdrawals. Which amount is closest to the interest? So just the interest, not the total balance, the employee will have earned at the end of 5 years. So you would start by writing your formula. A equals P, parentheses 1 plus R, parentheses exponent of T, and that's on your formula chart. The principal was $5,000, that's your starting amount. The rate, when you change it to a decimal, is 0.09, and then the time is 5. So when you solve that, you get 7,693.12. But the question is just about the interest. So you have to subtract the principal to see the amount of interest that was earned. So once you subtract the principal, then you see it's 2,693.12, so that's letter J. Number 13. In each diagram, line K is parallel to line L, and line T intersects K and L. If you notice, 113 is congruent to 113. 127 is congruent to 127. 90 degrees is congruent to 90 degrees. So 79 degrees would be congruent to 79 degrees. So x is going to equal 79 degrees. So letter A says the value of x is 79 because the two angles shown in each diagram are congruent, and that is true. Number 14. A hot air balloon is released at ground level and it rises into the air at a constant rate. After 5 seconds, the height of the balloon is 20 feet. After 5 seconds, the height of the balloon is 20 feet. The balloon continues to rise at the same rate. Which table shows the relationship between the time in seconds, x, and the height of balloon in feet? So at 5 seconds, it would be at 20, which means at 10 seconds, it would be at 40. Because if you double the time, it would double the height. So it might be H and it might be J. Double 20 and it would be at 80, right? So each time you're going up by 20 and 5. So that eliminates H. So letter J is the correct answer. You're just looking for the one that matches the pattern. Which Venn diagram correctly represents the relationship between rational numbers and irrational numbers? Rational numbers and irrational numbers have nothing to do with each other. They are complete opposites. And so that is what's shown in letter A. Anytime they're overlapping, it means that they have something in common with each other. And rational and irrational are complete opposites. Number 16. Rodolfo has 15 toys in his toy box. So this is your y-intercept because that's your starting amount. And he adds 2 new toys every month. So that's your slope. Based on the information, which representation best shows the relationship between the number of toys Rodolfo has in his toy box and the number of months that have passed? So if you look at the graphs are easiest to look at. Letter J says he starts at 0, but he doesn't start at 0, he starts at 15. Letter G starts at 15, and that's true. And then every month it goes up by 2. Every month it goes up by 2. So every month it's going up by 2, up by 2, up by 2, up by 2. So that's why G is the correct choice. On your tables, I would put these both in stat edit and check your slope and y-intercept, and neither of them would work. Number 17. Triangle JKL is dilated with the origin as the center of dilation to create J prime, K prime, L prime. Which rule best represents the dilation that has been applied to triangle JKL to create triangle J prime, K prime, L prime? So it's a dilation. This is my original. This is my copy. And it's getting bigger. If it's getting bigger, that means that my scale factor is more than 1. I can automatically eliminate A because that's adding and subtracting, and B because that's adding and subtracting, and dilation is always multiplication, always. So I can eliminate anything that's not multiplication. C would make it smaller, which means D would make it larger. So the scale factor is 7/4. Number 18. A gym charges a membership fee plus an additional fee per yoga class. The table shows the linear relationship. So linear relationship is your y equals mx plus b. Just looking for the equation of the line between the number of yoga classes taken and the total cost including the membership fee. So this is definitely a stat edit kind of question. Anytime you see a table, think stat edit. When you do that, you will find that the slope is 375, which per is going to be your unit rate, that's going to be your rate of change, that's going to be your slope. So F is the correct answer. Number 19. The list shows the heights of 6 students in inches. What is the mean absolute deviation for these numbers? So first you find the mean by adding all these and dividing by 6 because there's 6 numbers, and you would get 66.5. Then you subtract everything from the mean. So you would get 3.5, 3.5, 1.5, 6.5, 8.5, and 0.5. You're subtracting all of these numbers from the mean, like one by one. After that, you find the mean again of your new numbers, and when you do that, you would get 4, because this adds up to 24 divided by 6 gives you 4. Number 20. Joseph ran a 6-mile race in 48 minutes. Which graph has a slope that best represents Joseph's average rate of speed during the race? So he ran a 6-mile race, so you'd have to go to 6 miles on the graph and take that over to 48 minutes, which would be way beyond the graph. But this letter F is saying that he ran 6 miles in less than 1 minute, so it's definitely not F. Letter H says he ran 6 miles in exactly 1 minute, definitely not H. G says he ran 6 miles in we don't know how long, but it goes way past 10. And then J doesn't even make any sense because he's not moving. He's not going anywhere. He hasn't gone any distance whatsoever. So G is the correct answer. Number 21. Pentagon VWXYZ is shown on the coordinate grid. A student reflected pentagon VWXYZ across the x-axis. So it's going to be reflected over here on this side. Something like that. This is going to be your reflection because it's reflecting over the x-axis. When that happens, all the x's are going to stay the same. All the y's are going to become the opposite. Okay? We eliminate B because that's got addition and we're never going to be adding on a reflection. We eliminate C because that's flipping and we're never going to be flipping x's and y's on a reflection. That's only on rotations. And then we can eliminate D because that kept y the same, which means that's a reflection on the y. Number 22. Which list shows these numbers in order from least to greatest? So first, of course, you need to change them all to decimals. So this would be equal to 6.16. This one's already negative 5.17. This is equal to 5.75. And then the last one is equal to negative 5.2. This number would be first because it's the most negative, so that means it the least, which means H would be the correct answer. Number 23. What is the solution to this equation? So you're just going to write out your equation, give yourself some room to solve it, and start by moving the variables. So you can move x, oh I forgot, that's not a 4, that's an x, minus x, this cancels. 2x minus 1x just gives me 1x. Bring everything down. Then move your constants together. And x equals negative 7. Again, when you grid that, you're going to mark the negative, and then you're going to mark the 7 right before the decimal point. You can put the zeros, but you don't have to. Number 24. An investor puts $2,500 into a life insurance policy that pays 8.5% simple interest. If no additional investment is made into the policy, how much accumulated interest should the investor expect at the end of 10 years? So your formula for simple interest is I equals PRT. The principal is 2,500 times the rate after you've divided it by 100 times the time. Once you do that, you would get $2,125. You don't have to add it back to the principal because it's once just the interest. 25. Snacks at a county fair are sold in containers shaped like a cone or a cylinder. The dimensions of each container are shown in the drawing. Which statement about the volumes of the cone and the cylinder is true? So you have to find the volume of the cone, right? And so because this is big B, you have to solve for the big B, and you have to find the volume of the cylinder. And again, big B, because it's a circle, is pi r squared times the height. So once I do that, for the cylinder, we would get 201.06, or sorry, for the cone, we'd get 201.06, and for the cylinder, we'd get 226.19. So the cylinder is larger, so you can eliminate any of the ones that say that the cone is larger, and so that leaves you with C after you subtract these two numbers. Number 26. Which situation can be represented by this equation? 7x plus 1 equals 10x. So really, this is just a reading question. You've got to look through all of your options, looking for per or each. That's your clue word that's where the variable goes. When you see per or each, that's your clue that's where the variable goes. So once you read through all of them, you get J. 27. The coordinates of the endpoints of QR are Q is 8,2 and R is 5,7. Which measurement is closest to the length of QR in units? So this is a diagonal line. Whenever you see a diagonal line, you can draw a right triangle out of it. Once you do that, you can use Pythagorean theorem to figure out how long it is. So 3 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. So 9 plus 25 equals 34. And the square root of 34 is 5.83. So A would be the correct answer. The ticket sales for a concert started at 4 p.m. The table shows the linear relationship. Linear relationship, there it is again, that equation of a line. So anytime you're doing that, anytime you see a table, think stat, edit. Okay, so again, anytime you see a table, I want you to think stat, edit. And then you can use that information to find the answer, and in this case, the answer would be J, because the slope is negative 3,000, and the y-intercept is 15,000. 29. A square with a perimeter of 20 units is graphed on a coordinate grid. The square is dilated by a scale factor of 0.4, with the origin at the center of dilation. If xy represents the location of any point on the original square, which ordered pair represents the coordinates of the corresponding point? So all of that information is not important, except scale factor is 0.4. And if scale factor is 0.4, you're going to multiply x and y by 0.4. Number 30. Which situation could not represent a proportional relationship? Remember, a proportional relationship always has to go through the origin, or 0, 0. So you're looking for the one that does not start at 0. And letter H says that the starting weight is 8 pounds. So the y-intercept of that would be 8, not 0. So that's why H is not proportional. Triangle RST is translated 6 units to the left. So it's going 6 units to the left and 4 units up. 4 units up. Which rule best describes this transformation? Well, we know it's not A because that's multiplication. We know it's not B because that's multiplication. And if it's going left, it's going to be subtracting on the x. And if it's going up, it's going to be adding on the y. So D is the correct answer. 32. Phil collected data from several of his friends about the number of hours they spent sleeping and the number of hours they spent playing video games on Saturday. He recorded the data in the scatter plot. Based on the scatter plot, what is the best prediction of the number of hours one of Phil's friends spends sleeping when the friend spends 1 hour playing video games? Okay, so first we start by drawing our trend line. And again, ask for a note card. And if we play video games for 1 hour, we follow that over to the trend line, make our mark, follow it down, and that's at 9. So the correct answer is 9. The dimensions of a rectangular piece of paper are 8.5 inches and 11 inches. So draw a rectangle, 8.5 inches and 11 inches. Veronica folded the piece of paper along its diagonal. So she folded it on the diagonal. Which measurement is closest to the length of the diagonal? Well, if you look at it, we're really just looking at a right triangle. So Pythagorean theorem to the rescue. 8.5 squared plus 11 squared. Right? That's going to give me my c squared. Add those together and you get 193.25. And then the square root of 193.25 is 13.901. So the closest thing to that is letter D. Number 34. The amount of water an electric dishwasher uses to wash dishes varies directly with the number of loads of dishes. The dishwasher uses 32 gallons of water to wash 4 loads of dishes. How many gallons of water will the dishwasher use to wash 10 loads of dishes? So first you have to figure out basically how much water do you need for 1 load. So if you need 32 gallons for 4 loads, that means you need 8 gallons for 1 load. So if you do 10 loads, you need 80 gallons. So your answer was 80. And again, when you bubble that, you can bubble the plus sign, and then you'd put the 8 and the 0, and then that decimal point. Which representation shows y as a function of x? So you are looking for the one that is a function. So if you look at your x, 1, 1, 1, 1. So A is probably correct. B is not because 0 is repeating and so is 1. C is not correct because all the x's are repeating. And D is not correct because -4 is repeating. Figure 1 and Figure 2 are similar quadrilaterals. Which proportion must be true? So what I do is I label these A, B, C, D, and then I label the other one, make sure they're facing the same direction. A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. And then when I look at the proportions, it's easier to match it up. So when I did letter G, I saw that this came from B prime, and then 2 came from B, A came from A prime, and 8 came from A. So that all matches up because we have prime, prime, normal, normal. So G is the correct answer. It's really just a dilation. The total cost of attending a state university is $19,700 for the first year. A student's grandparents will pay half the cost. So first you'd have to figure out what half of the cost is. So when we do that, we see that half the cost is $9,850. An athletic scholarship will pay for another $5,000. So you're going to take that away because you don't have to pay for that if it's a scholarship. Which amount is closest to the minimum that the student will need to save every month in order to pay off the remaining cost at the end of 12 months? So you have to take that remaining cost and divide it by 12. And when you do that, you get about $404.17. 38. A company sells bottles of vitamin capsules. The graph and tables show the linear relationship between the cost per capsule in cents and the number of bottles ordered. So you've got a graph happening here, and you've got a table. Anytime you see a table, think stat, edit, and that will give you your slope really quickly. You can also use the graph by counting on the line your change in y over your change in x. So from this point to the next point, and this point to the next point, this point to the next point, each time it's counting down by 10, and it's counting over by 2. So 10 over 2, and it's a negative slope because it's going down, equals -5. So either way, you would get a slope of -5. And again, in your bubble sheet, you'd have negative, and then the 5, and then the decimal. You can bubble the zeros or not. 39. An architect uses a cylindrical container to protect their blueprints. The dimensions of the cylinder are shown in the diagram. Which measure is closest to the total surface area? So your formula for total surface area is S equals 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. And all you're going to do is replace the r with the measurement for the radius and replace the h with the height, and this is all being multiplied. So 2 pi r times the height plus 2 pi r squared. And when you do that, you get 339.29. Number 40. Which scatter plot does not suggest a linear relationship? So this makes a straight line, this makes a straight line, this makes a straight line, this makes a curved line. So that is the one that is not linear because it's not straight. 41. Point Q is shown on the number line. Which value is best represented by point Q? So in order to plot them on the number line, you'd have to change them all to decimals. So when I change this first one, I get 2.32. This one gets 5.43. The next one gets 5.95. And then the last one gets 2.42. Well, obviously A and D are not even close. 5.95 would be closer to 6, so the correct answer would be B. And the last one, an oil well contractor drills a shaft 7 meters deeper into the ground every 2 hours. So it's going down 7 meters every 2 hours. Which graph has a slope that best represents this rate? So we can look at the graph, and we want to be going down 7 and over 2. So this one goes, let's see, let's find a good point. Well, here, if we went to 7, it would be like 5, 6, 7, just past 5, and then over 2. Well, that does not hit the graph, so that is not the correct choice. This one goes down 5, 6, 7, over 2. So that looks like it's correct. Next one, that looks like 2 would be over here somewhere. And then this one doesn't even make any sense. So H is the correct answer.